Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May 20th, 2020 edition of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson. I'm really excited to bring to you today, Returning and Thriving with Erika Broadwater. Erika is president of the National Association of African Americans in Human Resources. She's a busy person, so that's just one of her many jobs. I'll have her speak to you about, I guess, what we'll call her day job, even though I know NAAA HR probably keeps her really busy throughout the day as well. Just excited to have everyone here today. I know you guys could be other places, but you've chosen and decided to get this information from the National Urban League. So we're thankful that you're here. Again, my name is Kenneth Johnson. I'm your host. I'm also president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm, East Coast Executives. Also, diversity staffing consultant at the New York Urban League, Forbes career coach and facilitator at the Grow with Google Learning Center, NYC. Host of the Career Seekers radio show in Philadelphia on 106.5, but more importantly today, friend of Erika Broadwater. Erika, how's it going? I'm gonna need you to come off mute and talk to the people here. Let's go.
Hello, everyone.
Excellent.
Kenneth, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be with all of you today. Thank you. So, as Kenneth said,
very much.
my
So
name
do
is
me a
Erika
favor.
Broadwater. I am the current. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell them about your current opportunity. Tell them about what you currently do.
Absolutely. So as Kenneth mentioned, I am the current national president for the National Association of African Americans in Human Resources. We are now growing by leaps and bounds to becoming an international organization. So branding and name changing will be happening as we continue to stretch beyond the borders of North America. But as Kenneth says, my day job is being the head of talent acquisition for employer attractiveness and talent acquisition for North America at a company called Essity. It is the global health and hygiene leader. And in this time of a pandemic, we've been very successful in products that we've continued to produce and manufacture for this pandemic and people staying safe. But I'm here today representing NAAA HR as the national president and very good friend of Kenneth Johnson. So I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you very much.
And we're so excited to have you today. I'm looking forward to this Returning and Thriving presentation. You know, a lot of people on the line, they came in because of COVID-19. They're out of work. They may be laid off or furloughed, and now they're just looking for motivation in a sense, and just resources and information about returning back to the workforce. And I could think of no one better than the president of the National Association of African Americans in Human Resources to present that information. So I'm excited. I know you have a presentation to share. Let's jump in it.
Excellent.
No, I'm looking at them trophies back there. It looks like somebody's a pretty esteemed something, right?
Yeah, I attribute that to my children.
Okay.
But I pat myself on the back. And then behind me on the other wall is just some legacy work that I had done through the organization as I was the Delaware chapter president before moving into the national president role. So just some legacy work that is raining on my wall and just reminds me, it keeps me humble. Keeps me very humble.
Shout out to everybody out in Delaware. You know, I spent a bunch of time in Philly, so you know, all the people in Wilmington were very supportive of East Coast Executives as I kind of started to brand my business and come through as a diversity recruitment leader. So everybody in Delaware, we appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. And we appreciate you too,
and
all the work that you have done for the community.
Oh, thank you so very much. So it looks good. Returning and Thriving. Let's go.
All right. Oops, pardon me. So audience, before COVID-19, most of us as Americans, we were thinking about the holidays. We were spending time with family, wondering where is the snow this year, really trying to imagine what was going to happen in 2020. What was the new year going to bring? No one was really thinking about focusing on or even heard of the coronavirus. And I could probably imagine that as holiday spending was happening, your personal budgets were probably being reviewed, and you probably wanted to have your credit cards turned off at some point and your checkbooks put away. Spending over the holiday season can be a real budget strain. Also before COVID-19, employers were also reviewing their year-end profits and losses, looking at business KPIs and trying to plan for the workforce in 2020. Everything was all about net sales, revenue growth, strategic planning. And the most fun part was company holidays, right? So we were all involved and hanging out with our colleagues at these company parties. Business travel may have even been slowing down. Before COVID-19, most of us were even sitting in boardrooms, collaborating rooms, and just meeting spaces to try to plan out what our goals and projects would be, any new launches and initiatives for the year to come. And most of us were reflecting back on 2019 of the work that we had done and what would be determined to move into the next year to carry it over and continue progress. So what happened? Well, we went from working very closely together, both literally and functionally, to working from our home offices and trying to maintain that balance of work and life and work and more life and family. And now we have, our pets and our children around our work environment. So the workplace has definitely taken a change in the look. Now, as a result of COVID-19 and the stay-home order, what have we seen? And I'll pause here for a second to just put a plug in. I am not a politician, and so this is not going to be about politics. But what we have seen is that we've seen some gun sales rise. We've seen depression on the rise. We truly have seen unemployment on the rise. And social distancing has become part of the rise. And what happened? After the supermarket panics and after the reality of this pandemic settling in, some of us again being sent home to work if we weren't essential workforce, some even furloughed or laid off. What happened? Yesterday didn't look like it does now. But then on April 1st of this year, the US Department of Labor announced a new act regarding the American work from home, and workers and employers will benefit from the protections and the relief offered by the Emergency Paid Leave Act and the Emergency Family and Medical Leave Act. Both were part of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and the department's Wages and Hours Division posted a temporary rule issuing regulations pursuant to this new law. Some of us, if not all of us, many of us even received our stimulus checks, and I know some are still underway. So even some of the laws have changed since the pandemic. So what now? How do you inspire and lead employees amid a global pandemic that has created anxiety and uncertainty everywhere? Moreover, how do you inspire yourself to get back into the game? The reality is, before COVID-19, many workers around the globe lacked some key skills, including digital capabilities. Working from home for many had become challenging because they weren't used to being technically independent or even set up with the right tools to be productive. Upskilling in preparation for the changes to come post-COVID-19 should be a critical part of our response and recovery. But the reality is many of the skilled people need to be employable during and after COVID-19 in the digital space, which will enable but not guarantee resilience, creativity, and the ability to collaborate with each other virtually. In areas where the pandemic is still an active threat, people need to be able to work and get work done while operating at a distance from their coworkers. Managers and team leaders need the skills required to motivate and manage teams' distribution, and job seekers may find themselves having to compete in a fast-changing digital world with which they may be unfamiliar with. So why is this so important? One of the most important immediate economic effects is to accelerate efforts that businesses, governments, and individuals were already making to not only digitalize, but also transition to this new platform model. Stop and think about it for a second. Before COVID-19, social media was used in many purposes and for many reasons, but nothing like what it's being used for today. In the past, we used social media for baseline information, truly for networking, for selling and buying, telling personal stories, sharing blogs, videos and pictures. We would like, dislike, love, and share some posts. Even bullying and ghosting. Social media was a hot topic for bullying and ghosting. But the look of social media has truly changed, and the use of social media has also changed. Social media platforms are now being used to conduct businesses across every industry, for the for-profit, the not-for-profit, private sectors, retailers, e-commerce is spiking. And most importantly, our medical care providers and education continuants are all being conducted by the use of technology and the digital space. So social media platforms have certainly changed the fundamental workplace with the new ways of engagement and social skill sets. So my clause there is, don't be afraid of social media and technology, because it is now the world that we will be living in.
So Erika, let me jump in here. So there's so many social media platforms out here. Are there any that you recommend kind of be the core suite of influence for people that are returning and thriving, or looking to return to the workplace, and they may be able to support and assist them in thriving?
I would say, and that's a very good question, there are two that I really believe are going to lead the way in which we do business going forward. And again, this is just my interpretation and speculation from what I have seen. But a lot of people are reinventing themselves, they're rebranding themselves. And by doing so, people are creating YouTube videos for training tutorials, to resell their business strategies, to even help others get into the business market. YouTube has become one of the leaders in the social media world that has helped during this COVID-19 time. It's a way to allow us to not only continue conducting business, but it's also a way for us to commercialize that business across the globe. Facebook Live is also another tool that has been very instrumental in this new platform. And I'll be very honest and transparent. I've been on, unfortunately, a number of funerals that have taken place on Facebook Live, so that there are no limitations to how many people can join the conversation. But there have been some team meetings on Facebook Live. There have been some interactive sessions. There have been, a lot of service conferences, church services. So I think Facebook Live has also become a tool that is trusted and utilized. Some of the ones that have not gotten such a good rap have been like Skype, and Zoom. And the reason is because of the flood of people that are using the system. The technology and the bandwidth is in some cases not always able to keep up with that demand. And especially if you're talking about global platforms, some of the more platforms that we're used to, like Skype and Zoom, become a little bit of a hindrance in technology in terms of the bandwidth. That's a very good question, Kenneth.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you know, we're talking about transitioning back into the workspace, but it's really now transitioning to a virtual workspace, at least for the immediate. So the requirements that we have engaged fully in this virtual realm right now is pushing people in many areas of the business to lead, not only in the digital space, but also to improve the auxiliary skills such as collaboration, creative problem solving, and openness to ideas. And even managers and team leaders, for example, are having to learn how to motivate one another and encourage teams from afar. And this is a new skill that is not just inherent, it is what we have to learn and adapt to. Everything that can be done online will be. And while activities we can't do remotely, we will have to be reconfigured somehow. So are you ready to return to work? Are you truly ready to return to work? Because here's another reality. And I think there's a poll coming up right now. How do you feel about returning to work after being locked down due to COVID-19? And there's a multiple choice answer that you can click on if you want to take a minute right now, read the answers, and send in your response.
So I'm looking at your slide. These are some incredible numbers that you're sharing in regards to unemployment.
It's a little terrifying. And we just learned as of this past weekend that the number of unemployment rate is now at an all-time high, 14.7%. That's a total of 23.1 million people unemployed. And guess what, folks? That's the competition. So if you have been furloughed or laid off, that's what you're competing against. Some state and government some state governors are now beginning to relax some of their stay-at-home orders. And some other states that are not relaxed yet are considering to do so. But you know, being confined for so long, it can cause stresses that you probably were not aware of, which can lead to some dysfunctions in your return to work. Yes, Kenneth.
I'm looking at the polling answers here, and it's really interesting. 53% of the people report that they are uneasy about returning to work. That's a pretty large number.
That is a large number. And I'll be very honest, and I said I was not going to be political, and I promise you that I won't. But even people wanting to go out and shop and socialize and be in restaurants, the numbers are still very high. People are just uneasy about being in social gatherings, in workplace gatherings, which is why this toll on virtual workspace is so vitally important.
So I'm always one to focus in on the positive. So we have nearly 30% of the people saying they're excited and ready to return to work. I think to the point you were speaking about earlier, just the mental side of being in a collaborative space, right? Although we try to find that virtually, evident by today, right? But it's really important for people to have human interaction, and it's just going to look a little different moving forward.
It is. It really is. And you know, one thing that I try to do with my teams, and as I mentioned, I have a global team. So For NAAAHR, my team is pretty much here in North America. That includes Hawaii and US Virgin Islands. But at Essity, my team is all over the globe. And what I do with my teams, with NAAAHR, every week we have some kind of virtual meeting where we're all on Zoom together. We're looking at each other and we're popping up on the screens and we're trying to get as much interaction as possible. We'll, have some coffee talks, some chat discussions. And then with my global team, I do the same thing. It's called our coffee and tea time. For my team in the UK, they're tea drinkers. Here in North America, we're coffee drinkers. So it's the coffee and tea time. And this is an opportunity too for us to all be on Skype together with our pictures showing and being able to see one another from afar, giving each other, our hugs and hearts. And it is a different time. Certainly, I'm a hugger. Ken, you know that I'm a hugger. I love hugging people. So it is a different time. And
I have a question for you. So because you've worked globally, you're kind of familiar and used to kind of working in this virtual environment. Is there any advice that you can share to people that maybe aren't as comfortable? Maybe their team has been a little more local or a little more regional and they've been able to get together. Is there any advice that you would share for people as they return back to the workplace on how they should handle and manage that?
Yes, absolutely. And I actually have some of those points here as well. I would say stay connected. Stay connected as much as possible, whether you're a leader or an employee, no matter who you are in the workforce, stay connected because, as I said here, sometimes confinement can cause stresses that we're not aware of, and it could cause us to be dysfunctional in our workspace. So when I say stay connected, be honest. If you're having a bad day, it's okay. You're having a bad day. Walk away from your current environment, your current surroundings. Maybe once a week, change where you work from home. If it's like I'm in my home office right now, I have my door closed. But if I was in a moment of distress or, I'm just not having a good day and I just need a different scene, I'll take my laptop out to the kitchen and I'll sit at my kitchen bar stool and table and I'll do work there. Change your atmosphere, but stay connected. Every once in a while, send someone a text with some GIFs that make them laugh or some Bitmojis that just brighten their day, but stay connected because what you don't want to do is you don't want to feel isolated. You don't want to feel closed off from the world, and you want to have those reality or pulse checks.
I want to chime in on a question that we received in the actual Q&A. And it's an interesting question because I'm not sure it is related to the pandemic, but there may be some other advice that you can share to this person. So basically what they're saying is they've been out of work since 2012 and they were planning to re-enter the workforce prior to the pandemic. Now they're concerned that they'll be competing with so many people and they're afraid they can't compete at 66 years of age. So I commend them for wanting to get back out here, right, and work. Any advice that you would extend to an individual in that particular situation?
That is a really good question. So no matter how long you've been out of work, whether it's just been most recently as a result of the pandemic, or if it was prior to and you were looking to come back into the workforce, honestly, my true belief is to retrain yourself. Go out there and learn a skill that you don't already know. Because the reality is, yes, you are competing with a number of people that you probably would not have even thought of prior to the pandemic. I have been hearing studies of a lot of e-commerce work that can be done remotely, and things like your billing teams, so medical billing, utilities billing, because billing can all be done on one system with that company. Look for opportunities where the skill sets are not as heavy as having a master's degree in engineering or science or a PhD in something, but those fundamental skills that you can go train yourself on, and then go look into some of the markets that you probably would not have tapped into, just to get yourself back into the workforce, just to bring yourself up to speed with technology today, and to show that you are investing in yourself more than just waiting for that next employer to come around the corner.
Right. That's great advice. I think, people can use this time now to use it as sort of a refresher or a skill set builder. Don't wait until they announce that everybody's returning to work. Start working on yourself now and build that skill set to support your search moving forward. So thanks for the question. Eric, I'm going to let you continue on with your presentation.
Absolutely. And I'm certainly happy to, you all pause me, ask any question that you want. Got a lot of tools in my toolbox, but I don't want to overdo the time. And I really want you all to be encouraged to get back into the workplace.
Great.
Yeah, because there's hope. Right? So great lead into the next part of this presentation. There really is hope. The corona crisis will impact just about everyone and everybody in every walk of life, in every business. There's not a business that hasn't been touched by this crisis. But don't let fear stand in your way. Now is the perfect time for you to fine-tune your job-seeking skills. Beyond taking the necessary health-related precautions, here is where we can find things to do. Network, network, network. I can't say it enough. Network. You know somebody who knows somebody. And now, because Kenneth has introduced me to all of you, now you know me. Network, okay? I can't say it enough. Consider hiring timelines. There are some companies that are still hiring, but it may take us a while to onboard you. So we may be slowing down the pace of your interview, where we normally would like to get all interviews wrapped up in about 2 to maybe 3 weeks. Now it might be taking 2 to 3 months to get through the interview process all the way to that hiring decision. So take your time and don't be in a rush if you can. Improve your profile. Go out to your social media sites. Go out to all of your sites where you have your profile, whether it's on a career site, a social site, your own personal site. Update and improve your profile so that you become just as competitive as that 23.1 million people out there. Prep for your interviews. There's nothing like a bad interview. You could be the best person on the earth and the most qualified for the position, but if you're not ready for that interview, which now will be virtual, you can fail miserably. Prep for your interviews. Even if all you do is turn the camera on yourself and start talking to yourself about how wonderful of a person you are and all of your skills and competencies that are relative to the position. Update your resume. I don't know that there's anybody on this call that can refute that. You have to have an updated resume. It's not only showing your interest in your career, but it's telling me a story. So when I get your resume, I'm not looking at it, and I don't want to use I'm going to call him a young man. He's still a young man. The gentleman that said he hadn't been to work since 2012. I don't want to see just 2012 on your resume. I'd like to see what are some of the things that you've done since 2012. Has it been volunteering for a local organization? Has it been, giving back? Have you started a business that, perhaps you're an independent consultant? What have you done? Have you gone back to school? So make sure your resume is always up to date. And take an online course. Most of them are free. A lot of them are inexpensive, but take time to take online courses. I happened to find a little while ago an online degree. It's kind of like getting an associate's degree, but it was all free. And I thought it was wonderful. So I'm actually going to sign up. And even though I have my master's, I really don't, and 9 HR certifications, I don't need a whole lot more education, but it's always good to keep your skills sharp. So don't give up. There is hope. Planning in advance. Most employers are creating internal teams to help coordinate efforts to reopen the workplace. Returning employees to their work sites and communicating to employees is essential right now. Remember, I said stay connected. Whether you're an employee or a leader, that communication has got to continue, just as if you were still in the office. Team members often feel like they're being individualized, and we need teams like HR and legal and operations and technology and building facilities and even the security team to help us get back to that work environment so that we don't feel so isolated. And then employers may also want to consider involving line managers in such group and conversations so that they can better understand the concerns and perspectives from their employees. I don't want to miss any questions, so if anyone has questions, just, let me know.
Yeah, I'm jumping through. I'm kind of filtering through some of the questions. I know Theveline is working on her end to do that as well. We're just letting you go because you're giving excellent information.
Perfect, perfect. More important than your employer preparing for teams to go back to work, you need to prepare. Your personal plan needs to be a strategy, not just your employer's strategy, but what are you doing to prepare? Bring your own PPE, your personal protective equipment, like hand sanitizers, like gloves, like a mask. Make sure you have your own PPE. Clean your workspace area before you sit down. Most of us may have a cloth chair. And if you know, cloth chairs will carry germs, they'll carry viruses. So if the building facility hasn't cleaned your office chair, make sure you do. Don't take any chances or risks. Push doors open with your elbows, just as we were elbow bumping. We started off fist bumping and then we were elbow bumping to say hi. And remember, guys, I told you I love hugging. It's just my nature. But now we have to use our elbows, and that is one way to help stop the spread of the germ. So use your elbows to push doors open.
So Erika, I have a question for you that came in.
Yes.
I'm going to read it as it's written. Should you include the free online courses you take on your resume? For example, taking some university/college courses as an audit. So a grade certification is usually not given for free. So basically, should you include free online courses on your resume?
Yes, because it's continued education, it's continued learning. It's saying that you're sharpening your skills. You're not just sitting at home waiting for that job to come through and watching the news all day. Yes, you're doing something productive. You're increasing your skills. And again, in this digital workspace, we have to be sharp. Our skills have to be sharp. I had a family Zoom call where a lot of my family members were elder. And they didn't know how to use Zoom. I walked them through a quick tutorial to teach them Zoom, and then we all got on a call. There's nothing wrong with sharpening your skills, and add that to your resume. It might sound a little trivial, it might sound unimportant, but guess what? It's very important in this time. I probably interview maybe 6 or 7 leaders a week. And the one thing that I find very captivating is those who don't use this time to sharpen their skills. I like to hear the stories about how you took an online course in the midst of all of this, how you went out and got a certification in the midst of all this. And guess what, folks? We literally have been on lockdown in some cases since February, in most cases since March. In that time, you could have gotten the certification, and you should be working on something to sharpen your skills. But that's an excellent question. I love it.
Great. I'm actually typing some online resources into the chat as we speak, but I'll speak to some of them. There's Khan Academy, there's Code Academy, there's MIT Open Courseware, there's Udemy, Coursera, Free Coding Camp, GCF Learn Free. There's a ton of them out there. People, you have to research and find them, but they are out there. Trust me, I always recommend that people just kind of look for things, and there are new things being presented daily. So people understand the challenges that we're experiencing right now. And I think we live in a world where people are starting to share a little more virtually and electronically. So I think there was someone online that said they love YouTube University, but it's a great resource. As you had mentioned earlier, YouTube, there's a ton of information that can teach you new skill sets. And, you know, of course, LinkedIn, a lot of people are sharing. There's LinkedIn trainings. I know Selena Rizvani is doing some trainings on LinkedIn. So many other people that are doing things on LinkedIn, and they're sharing openly with people to give them an opportunity to acquire new skill sets and be familiar with different information.
Absolutely. And guess what, folks? It doesn't have to be learning, training, online courses that are in your wheelhouse. It could be something drastically and dynamically different. And what I mentioned before, that I found a course that I'm going to actually enroll in, that's a free course, is that you can get your degree in theology for free. And the reason I decided that I want to take this course is because I'm actually learning the Bible in Spanish, and I want to be able to learn it also in Greek and Hebrew. So it's totally outside of my wheelhouse. I am a woman of faith, but it has nothing to do with HR. In fact, we steer from talking about religion and politics from an HR perspective because of policy and procedures. But this is something that I want to do for me. And guess what? At the end of the day, if my job goes away, if Cities, for whatever reason, closes their doors, and HR, if we have to shut business down due to this pandemic, I have something to fall back on. And that's why continued education and getting certifications is so vitally important.
Okay, so you piqued some people's interest. We have a question from Miss Smith. What is the first thing you do if you're interested in a career in HR? I love the question. I love the question to the president of the National Association of African Americans in HR. I love it.
The first thing you do is get a career coach. And that's the God's honest truth. You get a career coach, because HR is one of the hardest industries in terms of professions to get into if you don't have an HR background. Unfortunately, we have to be very particular because we are governed by so many different protected laws. And if you don't have an HR background, you won't know what those laws are. I know a lot of people say, well, look, if I have social skills and if I have a degree in sociology or psychology, I should be able to get into HR. That is a good point, but it doesn't qualify you. There are so many laws that we're governed by, so many policies and regulations that we're governed by. So my advice to you is, first thing you need to do is get a career coach, get a counselor, somebody that can help you look at your fundamental skills, your tangible skills, what you need to compete with those who are in HR professions, and how you can get there.
Great, great. You know what? I want to thank everybody that's on the line. Erika, one thing I love about the UL Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series, everybody shares so openly. So people are dropping in links to 25 free online courses and things of that nature. So you've sparked some great conversation. Let's go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think by now you all have read some of the PPE that I'm recommending, but the one thing that I want to mention here before I move on to the next slide is, please take your time re-engaging. The one thing that I have to say is, as much as I appreciate people wanting to get back into the workforce, as much as I appreciate people wanting to get back into social society, I would rather miss you now for a little while than miss you forever. As I mentioned before, I have been attending far too many virtual funerals that, in my mind, I would rather miss you for just a little bit longer right now, to know that I will see you again in person and guarantee you will get that hug. I think we all know that social distancing at work is going to be very critical. So, you know, employers are taking measures and taking steps to implement some social distancing at work. Perhaps that could be limiting the number of employees on each floor, spreading out workspace stations, maybe reducing the amount of staff that's at the reception desk or security desk. even having one-way hallways, making sure that you go up one hallway and down another so that you're not passing each other, and limiting the number of employees that are allowed on elevators, I would say, and in break rooms and bathroom areas. I would say the more you can look at your surrounding and be very careful with social distancing in mind, you want to take the right steps, but as leaders and employers, we have to make sure that we're helping you to stay safe as well. And guys, listen, this is not a time for us to discriminate. It truly is not. This is not the China virus. This is not a virus that cares about your race. It doesn't care about your ethnicity. It doesn't care about your religion or your social, economic, or political views. It doesn't even care about your employment status. It is an unseen virus that can hit and attack any of us at any time. I heard someone say yesterday on a podcast I was listening to that, the uncertainty of even walking out your door, where is it lingering? If that last delivery driver was exposed to the coronavirus, is it still sitting there in your front door area? So I say use all precautions, because this virus has no boundaries, but this is not a time for us to discriminate against one another, but really truly think about individual lives, your own life, and your group surroundings. So how does this impact us as leaders? I think we're witnessing a revolution in leadership. Now as leaders, and you as employees, we must understand and support each other like never before. People are sharing more, people are concerned more, people are creating an expectation of humanity, active listening, being more supportive and more connected. There is nothing that we can do now that we should take for granted. There's nothing wrong with staying connected in this time, and some of our behaviors will have to change, not just in our home environments, but in our work environments. So be a little more understanding to people wanting to say, listen, can you stay on that side of my cube or that side of my office door? Be creative in the way you communicate with one another so that you're not being offensive. And remember, I said this is not a time for us to discriminate. Our Asian friends, our Asian colleagues, they are not the cause of this virus, and we should not be looking at them as a way of discriminating against them. Also, those who are forcing conversations by riots and picketing, we should not be looking at them with an evil eye. Look, we're all humans and we all have a stake in the game. We all have the right to our voice and our opinion, but I just say that we have to find camaraderie somewhere, because truly we're all in this together. As leaders, we're also in this new norm. So rather than waiting for that re-entry and being reactive, leaders need to be prepared. We need to be setting the expectation of the way in which we're going to return folks to work so that employees can focus on the strategies of business priorities and their own futures.
Got a ton of questions coming in.
Go for it. Let's get them.
Go. I want you to work your way through your presentation, and then we'll get them at the end.
I think there's ways that leaders can also encourage their teams. And I'll just pick a few of these out that are near and dear to me. Remind your teams that what we deliver matters just as much as what we do matters. Because at the end of the day, it's not just the work that we deliver on, but it's also who we are in the workplace. And also remind your teams of what they stand for in the company and their relevance to the business. But most importantly, give good feedback as much as you can. Give positive feedback, and don't forget to pat yourselves on the back, because it is very difficult in this time to be a leader virtually, and to manage teams that are in remote locations. This is not an easy time for any of us. So while you're encouraging your teams, don't forget to encourage yourself.
Great.
What about small businesses? I'm sure that there are some folks on this call that own their own business. Now is the time to rebrand yourself. Now is the time to look at some of the social sites that you're on and optimize them. Maybe it's blogs, maybe it's newsletters, maybe it's optimizing your social media space, conducting webinars. Look, this is a good time for you to rebrand yourself. So in other words, when you reinvent yourself, it is for the bottom line. So I believe, Kenneth, you had some questions in the chat room. So before I ask people this question, let's hear what they have in questions.
Sure. So we have someone saying that they're updating their resume since they've been furloughed from their current employer. Prior to this, they worked at another employer for approximately 4 months and have longer tenured positions before that. Should they include the short-term role on their resume or just address it during the application phase?
No, absolutely. Include it on your resume, because here's the deal, guys. Any employer that interviews you and frowns upon you for a short stint of work time, you're laid off or furloughed due to this pandemic. It's at no fault of your own. You didn't resign and you weren't terminated due to performance. You were furloughed or laid off due to a global pandemic. And any employer that cannot understand that circumstance for you right now is not an employer that you want to work for. Understand this, folks. Your next career is still your next career. As much as an employer is going to invest in you, you need to make sure that this is the right investment for you. So if you have worked for a company 4, 5, 6 months prior to this pandemic, and your past experience shows that longevity, shows that tenure, you have that to lean on. But this pandemic has hit everyone in every industry. There is not an industry untouched by this crisis. So yes, put it on your resume. Talk about how wonderful it was to work at that place for the 4, 5, 6 months. You hate to have been one that was tapped on the shoulder, but listen, it happened.
Okay. So we have some people. I'm going to combine 2 questions, basically. One was, what should one expect from employers to help usher back into the workforce? Now, I know you shared a lot of the things about even bringing some of your own PPE into the workforce, but then someone else had a great question. How will one engage back into the workforce if business travel is part of your role? How do you see that playing out?
That is a very good question. This is where you have conversations with your management team. What are going to be the expectations when you return to work, particularly if you're in a function where travel is your job, like a salesperson, and someone who may have to travel not just here nationally, but globally. You have to have those conversations, and you have to look for real answers, not the well, we don't know yet, we're uncertain. No, I need to know what is the trajectory of my career when I return back to work. What are going to be the expectations? And truly, as leaders, this is what we are strategizing and planning for now. How much business can we continue to conduct virtually? And what will be the future of travel bans and engaging in environments where one state might be open, but another state that you have to travel to still has restrictions.
Sure. Unprecedented time, so I think we'll figure out a lot of it as we go on, right? So I have another question for you. Pre-COVID, I was looking to transition my career from financial services to investor relations. I'm currently employed, so is now still a good time for a career change, or should I wait?
Good question. So you're still employed, but you were still, before all of this, you were thinking about moving into a whole different world and industry. If that is your passion, Why let this pandemic stop you? You're still employed, you have nothing to lose, but you might have everything to gain. The one thing you don't want to do is stop your vision. You don't want to have any regrets, because at the end of the day, no employer can guarantee the future. So if your goal and your mission before this pandemic was to change your career, I say go for it. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain.
Great. So we have some other questions. Oh, this is one that's directly related to you, so I'm going to get you to answer it now. Karen wants to know, what's the name of the online theology degree study?
Oh, I'll have to look it up. And Karen,
right.
If you send
Karen can connect with you offline.
Yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll send that link to you.
Great. All right. Let's see. So it's an interesting question. I'm going to throw it at you anyway. For entrepreneurs, what is the best way to invite corporate leaders to my free webinar for post-COVID wellness discussions and solutions? I think somebody, if they're active on the social media feeds or active on LinkedIn, I think that's a good place to promote that.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Listen, most, if not all, companies have a group site on LinkedIn. Join their group site and ask permission to post, whether it's a flyer or a promotion or a video. Get permission from them to post it. It will draw the attention of their employees and their stakeholders. So join those groups on LinkedIn. SCD, as a company, we have a company page. NAAHR, we have a company page. Join them as a group member, and then see what you can do to ask permission to post your business on their site.
Great. Also, I'm going to keep them going then.
Okay.
So this individual says they've been working in education and nonprofit for 4 years, and they also are in the Army Reserves. Mm-hmm. They already were planning on transitioning out of the field into the engineering field in which they have their degree in. How do they continue that transition into finding a position in the engineering field post-COVID?
I say the same thing as the person who wanted to enter into the HR profession. You have to get a career coach. And listen, we're in a day and time where people are thinking about transitioning their careers to other areas or taking where they started and continuing on. You need to be in a position that you can link up with a career coach. I have a few recommendations, some very, very close, near and dear colleagues of mine that I can recommend to you. So if you send me a connection on LinkedIn with a reminder, I need a career coach, I will connect you to some very credible, very well-established career coaches who have been doing this for years.
Sure. Let's see. Let's keep it going. All right, so in updating your resume, do you include a profile summary or an objective? I'm going to answer that now in advance. It should be a summary if you're going to have anything at all. Also, do you include keywords from the job description? And what part of the JD should you pull keywords from? So I'll let you go, but I have something to say as well.
Yes, be very careful. Be very careful pulling the job description and using that as your resume. Even the job that you're in now, if you're using your job description to describe what you're doing now, that we can see that a mile away. You do want to pull out keywords from the job description that are relevant to your experience, because you're going to have to speak to it. So if you're just trying to make your resume look pretty and attractive and you're using their words, guess what? It's their words, it's not yours. So pull those keywords out only when they're relevant to your experience and you can speak to it, but never use a job description as your job description, not at all.
So in regards to the keywords, what I'm going to say is that they are really important, especially as your resume is attempting to navigate the applicant tracking systems, right? The systems are rating your resume according to the position description. So Erika actually on a few of these slides has used word clouds. And you can find a word cloud generator anywhere on Google. Take the position description, the requirements and duties part of the position description, drop it into a word cloud. It'll show you the words that are most relevant and the words that come up on the position description the most. They'll be the larger words towards the center. If you have some of those skill sets, make sure those skill sets find their way onto your resume. And that's where you find the keywords, and that's kind of a way to ensure that they're on your resume. So, but it's a good question, but it's really about getting your resume through the applicant tracking system. And if that's your approach, I'm going to encourage you to start networking more, because that's going to be the best way to your job. 70% of the people out here report that they found their most recent and best jobs through networking. So network with Erika Broadwater, NAAA HR, UL Jobs Network, your Urban League affiliates. Those are the places that are going to help you connect with your next employment opportunity.
And that's a good point, Kenneth, because I can tell you my career elevation, I have yet to be in job search. They have all been through somebody pulling me through a network channel. I've been quote unquote found in so many different ways just by networking. The last 3 companies that I've worked for, I didn't apply to them or was in job search. I was found. So networking is so critical to your job search.
So Erika, you know, people have had some great questions and they'll continue to have great questions. I could have you here until 2 o'clock, but we have about 2 minutes for you real quick. So let's close out real quick.
Yes, indeed. And as I said to all of you, you know, I am a woman of faith. And I just want to encourage all of you to stay strong, to be strong, protect yourself. I don't want to push any religion on anybody, but, you know, I think everybody knows the serenity prayer. So there are things that we're just not going to be able to change. There are decisions that are being made that we just don't like. But at the end of the day, we're all human. We all bleed the same blood. We all go to sleep and wake up the same way. And you know, if we're not thinking about ourselves first and those around us second, then, you know, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So stay protected, stay encouraged. I'm here for you if you need to connect with me, whether it's on LinkedIn. I don't do a whole lot on Facebook. I'll admit I haven't posted anything in a while. I know I got to get back to it, but truly connect with me on LinkedIn and let me see what I can do to help you.
Well, LinkedIn is the best way to connect with you.
Yes.
All right, great. Listen, I want to say thank you for just hanging out with us today. On behalf of Wanda Jackson and the team at the New York Urban League, Evelyn Felix, doing great work. We just thank you for hanging out with us today and sharing on this returning and thriving DCSS. Listen, I want to thank everyone that's on the actual feed right now for just hanging in here with us and taking in this information that Erika had to share. It's a hard time, as Erika had mentioned, but most importantly, you're going to have to look out for yourself first. Keep your mental health right and continue to kind of strategize and network about your next job opportunities. Yeah, this is unprecedented times, but there's always opportunity in chaos. And speaking of opportunity, Erika, next week, we have what I'll call a Miss Opportunity. A great friend will come and speak about the sense of belonging in the workplace. So on June 3rd, Janice Gassam will be here with us, June 3rd, 12 p.m. You'll join on and log on to explore the concept of belonging as a foundation for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. That's right up my alley. I'm looking forward to that conversation, as I have looked forward to and have enjoyed this one today. Erika, thank you so very much for tuning in. Next week, June 3rd, Janice Gassman. I'm sorry, 2 weeks from now, June 3rd, Janice Gassman. Everybody enjoy the holiday weekend. Stay safe. Social distancing, it's real. We want you back we want you back in 2 weeks. So stay safe out here. Erika, I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you all. My love to all of you. Thank you so much, Kenneth, and your whole team. Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay. Take care.